Okay, welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I'm Nate, and if you watch my show, you're in my corner. Today's episode is a post-fight show for UFC 192, Cormier versus Gustafsson. So yeah, we'll do a post-fight rundown of the main card, and top to bottom prelims to the main event. This whole entire card was pretty amazing. I mean, I was a little disappointed with the main event. I'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, let's start off with the match that kicked off the main card. So in the women's bantamweight division, we had Jessica Evil Eye versus Juliana Pena, and yeah, wow, this fight was just. It was a grappling war. I mean, it was like, I mean, Jessica Eye was able to get top position, which was pretty impressive. I was not expecting that. Not to take anything away from Jessica Eye, I just thought Juliana Pena would have the ground advantage all the way through, and Jessica Eye would have the stand advantage all the way through, and it would be classic grappler versus striker. But yeah, it was a grappling war, and it went back and forth, bits and pieces. But for the most part, Juliana Pena got the dominant positions and was going for submissions, and Jessica was trying to work in some submissions too. But man, it was a battle. It was a battle on the ground, topsy-turvy. It was a great, exciting, fun fight. I'm proud of both fighters. They both went for it. They're both trying to go for that finish, and it just didn't happen. And yeah, I totally feel for Pena that she wanted the finish and didn't get it. I could be frustrated about that too. And yeah, Jessica Eye, I mean, she went out on her shield. She didn't just lay down and die. She went out and was just trying to get out of bad spots, as well as getting dominant positions and going for it in the finish. And she landed some hard shots on Pena, but I mean, again, Pena got more dominant positions and won this fight fair and square. Yeah, it was. There was a 1-point deduction for Jessica Eye. I think it should have been a warning. It was a knee to the head of Pena when they're on the ground. I think it was just caught up in the moment sort of thing. But yeah, nonetheless, she got deducted a point, so it was 29-27 unanimous decision win for Pena. And then, in the flyweight division on the main card, we had Joseph Benavidez versus Ali Bogotinov. And this fight, wow, there's some people I was sitting next to that thought Ali won the fight, but it looked like Joseph was controlling still, and he was landing the shots he wanted from a distance. And yeah, this was a pity-patter war. It was 30-27 for two of the judges and 29-28 for one of the judges, and a clean unanimous decision win for Joseph Benavidez. That was probably my least favorite fight on the card, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, there was moments where this fight could go either way, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm glad Joseph got the win. Then in the heavyweight division, we had Sean Jordan versus Ruslan Magomedov, and yeah, Ruslan I had winning this fight. I thought it was going to be like first or second round knockout, but it was a unanimous decision win for Ruslan. He got 30-27 on two of the scorecards and 29-28 on the last one on another judge's scorecard. And Ruslan, I mean, he was just teeing off on Sean Jordan, and he was getting him up against the cage, and he was just avoid getting hit real well. It was a good technical striking fest for Ruslan, and a good learning experience. Building up that fight time in the octagon. Yeah, I mean, this fight was for the most part, how I thought it would be. The only difference is I thought there would be a knockout in the first, second round, Ruslan getting the win, but it didn't happen exactly like that. But yeah, it was a good win for Ruslan and good win for AKA. His training camp must be real proud. Yeah, then into the co-main event, we had Ryan Bader versus Rashad Evans. Yeah, this one kind of surprised me a little bit. I was kind of shocked that Ryan Bader won the way he did. I thought if Ryan Bader won, like I said on my pre-fight show, that he was going to win by first, second round knockout because he would be able to catch Rashad Evans. But then Rashad has really good head movement. And yeah, the judges had this across the board 30-27 each and every round. I mean, 30-27, Ryan Bader winning every round. And, I thought eventually Rashad Evans would, start finding his range and teeing off on Ryan Bader and not necessarily knock him out, but outpoint him and get a unanimous decision win over Ryan Bader, possibly knockout. But yeah, this one it pretty much went the other way around. Ryan Bader found his range and outpointed Rashad Evans and got him up against the cage. And anytime Ryan was in any sort of bad spot, he was able to reverse it. It looked like a great performance for Ryan Bader, and I definitely think he should be in line for a title shot. Either automatically get DC, or if John Jones comes back and fights DC, then he should have the choice of either waiting it out and face the winner, or fight someone and have that be a #1 contender fight. I mean, yeah, Ryan Bader, he's paid his dues. He's on a 5-fight win streak right now. He won the Ultimate Fighter Season 8, and he's reinvigorated his career, and he's looking great right now. And he's well-rounded. His grappling skills are amazing. He always had pretty good wrestling, and his striking has become more full circle, I think. Yeah, then into the main event now. In the light heavyweight division, we had the title fight for the UFC Gold in the light heavyweight division. Yeah, we had Daniel Cormier, the champ, versus Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson. Yeah, this one, some of you guys know me. I'm a big Alexander fan, and this fight, oh boy, it had its moments. It wasn't a bad fight at all. But I gotta say, the fight went like this. The first round, Alexander survived and had a couple moments, and DC did get that takedown. Then the second round, it was like, oh yeah, Alexander probably won that round, so now it's 1-1. Then round 3, I'm thinking, okay, DC's a little bit more gassed. He's 8 years older than Alexander, and he doesn't have the reach of Alexander. He doesn't have the height of Alexander. And I thought, okay, this Alexander's rounds now, 3, 4, and 5, to start teeing off and get the knockout victory and get that gold. And, we can all celebrate. But then it started to drag on a little bit. And then, Alexander was, there was moments where he was trying to grapple with DC, which I didn't understand. He should just, not try to clinch with him, not try to push him up against the cage. Just land strikes, just, find, at that point I felt like he found his range and just land strikes. And he could have easily finished DC there. But then, he didn't. And then it got to round 4. And round 4, it was like, it was one of those things where I just couldn't believe it. He was just running around too much. He kept running in circles. Anytime DC threw a right hook, you would see Alexander duck and circle around, run in circles, and this happened constantly in the last couple rounds. And so I can easily see why DC was winning the fight, because there were moments where he was landing And then if he wasn't landing, it was just Alexander running away, running in circles. And Alexander should have just stayed in the pocket with DC and started teeing off on him. I mean, I think that would have been a good game plan. I mean, his takedown defense was holding up real well, and the threat of takedowns in the later rounds were not as much there as they were in the first couple rounds. And I felt like it was like this, like Alexander had the UFC title. Yeah, just he had the UFC title, and it was in his hands, and then he just goes, "Oh, this is nice," and then gives it to DC, and then just runs in circles the last couple of rounds. Drove me nuts. I was really disappointed in Alexander's performance. The only impressive thing is he didn't get knocked out and he didn't get submitted. But I mean, he could have won. I think when he watches this fight again, he will realize that. And I think Alexander's better than this. He needs to realize that. And he needs to realize that he can be champion in the UFC. The sky's the limit for this guy still. He's still not that old. I mean, plus light heavyweights, I mean, they peak in their mid-30s, possibly even late 30s, so he has plenty of good years left in him. And he just needs to focus on that striking, I think. Feel comfortable in that pocket and exchanging, because, I think that, he can land the heavy shots and get those knockouts. And, early on in his career, when he fought Vladimir Matyushenko, when Matyushenko charged in at him, he landed that shot that knocked him out. And then, it just, and there's plenty of other matches early on in his career where that happened. And then, look what he did to Matt Hamill. I mean, that was impressive. And it's just like, I feel like he could have done more and he could have won this fight. And a lot of people think Alexander got robbed in the decision. I don't think so at all. I had it 3 rounds to 2 for DC. If not 4 rounds to 1 for DC. Yeah, people that think Alexander won this fight are crazy. I'm not even a DC fan, and I'm admitting that. It's one of those things, well, he won fair and square. I mean, the judges got it right. And congrats, DC. I'm sure you and everyone at AK is real happy. Congrats to all you guys. You guys, did a good job. And it was one of those things where Alexander just dropped the ball and DC wasn't a moron, and he picked up that ball and ran to the finish line with it. And, I mean, do you blame the guy? Of course not. So yeah, there was a little bit of shock value, I feel like, in this main event. And again, it wasn't a bad fight. I just felt like Alexander could have done more. And had he done more, he could have possibly won this fight. Yeah, then real quick on the prelims, we had Trevino versus Northcutt. And yeah, that was Francisco Trevino versus Sage Northcutt. And yeah, that fight was really exciting, and then the controversy at the end of that fight was Trevino pushing Herb Dean, the referee. So yeah, I think this card had a lot of shock moments and oohs and ahs, and yeah, top to bottom, this was an event not to miss. I mean, every fight had something to talk about. So there you have it. That's a post-fight show for UFC 192. Stay tuned for my next episode, which I'll probably do another one-off episode since there's a large gap between fight cards. But, that aside, the next pre-fight episode will be on Cormier versus Duffy. So stay tuned for that one as well. And until then, see ya.